Hello, everyone. Welcome to William and the Magic Box. Today on our show, we are going to have Jared. Jared is from Boston in the USA. So let's see what Jared has to say. Enjoy the interview. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning, Jared. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks so much for taking the time so early this morning for the interview. Thank you.
It's no problem. I'm up early anyway, so.
So you always wake up early? Are you an early bird?
I would not say that I'm an early bird, mostly because I don't enjoy waking up early. I just wake up early. So I'm usually up around like 5 or 6 in the morning.
I see. Actually, sometimes I wake up at 4 as well. Most of the time I wake up at 4. But I just being 1 week away. I just came back last night from Portugal. I went to spend some time with friends. It was my birthday, and you can see I lost my voice a bit because I was talking too much.
Yeah, partying. Happy birthday.
Thank you. It was a great time. It was so nice to see so many friends around Europe. They came all the way to Portugal, and it was a great fun. So yeah, now I'm recovering my voice now.
Oh, good.
Jared, tell me where you're from.
So I grew up in Ohio, but I now live in Boston, Massachusetts. So I grew up in a small farming community, Northwest Ohio, very rural, and then lived in Minneapolis until 2017, and then moved to Boston about 5.5 years ago.
And why the move from Ohio to Minneapolis and now Boston?
Yeah, so I moved to Minneapolis for my graduate program. So I went to grad school in Minneapolis at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities for urban regional planning. And then afterwards, I've always wanted to be on the East Coast at some point in my life. I wasn't sure that it was going to be Boston. In fact, I never visited Boston until I came to shop for apartments. And so then in 2017, after graduating grad school, I moved out here, worked remote for a company that I was working for in Minneapolis for a while, and then found my job here in Boston. So.
And all your family, they are back in Ohio?
Yeah, all my family is still in Northwest Ohio. I have some extended family in Texas and elsewhere, but most of my family is all in Ohio.
And so far, what's the best part of living in Boston?
The best part of, I really think Boston's a great city because I can be in the city and do things. There's like this very metropolitan vibe to it, go to the theater, go out to eat, do whatever. But I can also, rent a car and drive up, 20 minutes outside of the city and go for like a small hike. Drive a little bit further, I can be up in Portland, Maine, or I can be down in Rhode Island. I think it's just really well connected in a lot of different ways. So if there are days that I want to escape the city and get out, I can do that and do it fairly easy. So
last time I went to the US, actually, a few years ago, we spent some time in Boston, actually. We drove from Montreal in Canada to Boston, and also we spent some time Cape Cod and Provincetown. I think one of the gayest spots over there.
Yeah, I can't see it on this, but I'm actually wearing a sweatshirt from P-Town.
Oh, really?
I got there last year when I went. So, yeah.
It was great. Actually, I didn't know, I never heard about the place before. And actually, my friend, he's English, he never heard either. So he was talking to a friend in New York and he said, oh, you're going to Boston, try to go to Provincetown as well, Cape Cod. And he was like, okay, let's check it out. And it was amazing, such a good place. Yeah. And what do you do for a living, Jared?
Right now I'm a cultural planner, or my official title is cultural planning and project manager for development review. Quite long. I work for the city of Boston in the mayor's office of arts and culture. And so my main role is to preserve the cultural assets. So live music venues, queer spaces, Black owned spaces, artist studios, you name it, anything that falls within arts and culture. My goal is to preserve those spaces. And then as new development comes to Boston, encourage developers to create new spaces, whether depending on where it is in the city, the neighborhood, et cetera, we may ask for different things, but really there is a large arts and culture community in Boston, and we want to retain that as much as possible. So that's what I focus on now, and I'm actually in week 3 of that job. So
Oh my God, amazing, exciting. My
yeah.
goodness, it must be very exciting to be involved in this, in this field, because my goodness, you are literally part of everything what's happening in the city, culture-wise, you know what I mean? It's amazing.
Yes, it's incredible. It's a great team to work with.
Wow.
So other folks in the office are working on our public art work. Some are working on getting grants to artists and creatives. And then I work specifically in the development realm. And so it's really great to see things come alive and be able to be there and advocate for the needs of the arts and culture community in Boston.
Amazing, very good. Jared, are you ready to go on a beautiful journey through your memories in life and to share your point of views?
Yes.
Amazing. Welcome to William and the Magic Box. So this is my best friend. Okay, full of random fun questions. I'm just going to play a song just for us to move a little bit before the first question. Let's do it. Right, so before the first question, during the journey, if there is a question that you don't want to talk about for some reason, you don't want to answer, always can change, okay?
Okay.
By the way, I'm saying your name right, Jared?
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect. First question for you is, what book had a big influence on you?
That's a really good question. I don't read as often as I would like to anymore. But last year I read the graphic novel called Flamer. And it's about this queer young person who grew up very Catholic, very religious, and he was going away on Boy Scout camp. And I think for me, I just identified a lot with the character in the book and his struggle to really find himself and be okay with who he was and live his true self, but also be in such an hyper masculine environment and navigate, what it meant to be coming out. And then it was, I think, really great in the end, where a lot of folks were coming around him and being supportive. There were definitely points where he, faced bullying or name calling, etc. But I just really identified strongly with it being so, I don't know, it was so well written, and a lot of the storyline I could identify and point into my own life. And so that was a really great story for me, a great book to read.
I see. So it means that growing up as a gay boy back in Ohio for you was a bit of a struggle?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know, so I identify as bi or queer, and I didn't have language to put to that. Growing up in Ohio, I grew up in a very rural town. My family is fairly conservative, pretty conservative. I grew up very religious, and so for me, looking back, I can see where these should have been signs that, who I was. But at the time, it was more of I just knew I was different. I didn't know what that meant. And I didn't have the language to ascribe to it. It wasn't really until undergrad that I started to become more comfortable with who I was. And then as I've left Ohio, I've moved further and further away, and over time I've started to come out more or be open more about my identity with close friends. I'm out at work, so it was I would say it was difficult in that I just didn't know, and I have folks who were in my class and things who were out or were outed, and I saw how people treated them. And so part of it is just you keep your head down and try to get out. And so it really wasn't until I left that I could start to feel and grow and explore what my identity meant and what it was.
But nowadays, your family, they are on the same level as you. They kind of support you. You're okay with that?
Yeah, my parents are, I guess my family is aware of my identity. I don't think they fully understand all the time, but they're always supportive of me. And I don't feel any shame necessarily being around my family and being myself anymore. Whether or not everybody in my family supports me, I don't know, but I came to a point where it didn't really matter if my family accepted me or not. It was more important that I accepted myself.
Absolutely.
And that was a big turning point, but I was very happy when I did come out that my family was still loving and very supportive. So
Amazing. Do you have siblings?
I do. I have an older sister and I have a younger brother. And my sister has 3 kids. My brother has a 1-year-old. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. And all back in Ohio?
Yes, all back in Ohio.
Amazing. Next question. Okay, Jared from Boston. Next question is, describe yourself in 1 positive word and 1 negative word only.
1 word. Okay. I think the positive word I'll use is caring. And then negative word, we'll go with demanding.
Ooh, tell me a little bit about it.
I don't know. I think for me, I ask a lot of myself sometimes. I can be very hard on myself.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think I can just demand a lot of my person, whether that's going places with friends, hanging out all the time, even though my social battery is low, or trying to go above and beyond at work, or being hard on myself if I didn't go to the gym that day, or I didn't leave the house, I didn't shower. I don't know. There are these days that I think just happen in everybody's life. But for me, those can be really hard days and I can like beat myself up about it. And so I think that's what I mean by demanding. But I also in some ways will expect, like I have high standards for the people around me too. And so I will demand a lot of them in terms of like their character, not necessarily like, you need to come to my house and do this thing with me. It's more symbiotic than that, but.
I totally understand your point. I have the same way of, you know what I mean, see things as well. I literally, if I miss something, I literally give myself a hard time. I put myself in that mood. But at the same time as well, I realize that sometimes you just need to look in the mirror and go like, you know what, you're doing well. Give yourself this time to not doing anything or actually missing something that wasn't that important or something that but yes, I know when you are like that, I know what I mean. It's difficult for you to just let it go, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It keeps here like, why did you do that? Why? You could have done, you should have done. I totally understand.
Yeah.
Anyway, next one, let's do it. Right, before the next question, tell me, when you arrived in Boston, what was the first impression that you went like, okay, that's the place I can see myself living? There is something that impressed you the most?
Well, first, I had decided to move to Boston before I ever visited, so that decision was already made. But when I moved here, I first lived in a neighborhood called the North End, which is like also like the Little Italy of Boston. It's a very dense neighborhood, a lot of like brownstones, walk-up apartments, etc. But it's got a lot of commercial activity, especially Italian restaurants. And I think for me, what really made me excited to be in Boston is that I lived close to downtown and I could walk anywhere I wanted to go. And that walkability, that being able to, walk 20 minutes and be in a different neighborhood with different kinds of shopping, or walk to work, go for a stroll along the Greenway, being close to all these amenities and being able to really walk there was exciting for me, especially as somebody who grew up in rural Ohio. And, I lived 7 miles out of the town, had to bike, or, we would drive wherever we needed to go. Being close to everything and hearing the hustle and bustle of the city is what made me really excited.
I see. Right. Where are you planning to go for your next vacation?
Well, vacation, I don't know. I define vacation and trip a little differently. So a vacation for me is something that I would be like very relaxing. I have no really plans or whatever. I don't have any of those planned right now, but the next place I'm going is New Orleans for Christmas with some friends. And then from New Orleans, I'm flying to Phoenix and spending New Year's with friends in Phoenix. So that's my next two trips. I'm trying to get a trip planned to New York in January. I love traveling, so I want to be everywhere all the time. I think it's a lot of fun. But in terms of vacation, like a relaxing beach day or hideaway in like a cabin or something, I don't have any of those planned quite yet.
What's the meaning of Christmas for you? Do you like Christmas?
Um, I have mixed feelings about Christmas. So the US's Thanksgiving is this week coming up, and I'm really excited about that. Actually, I think it's a much more, though there's a lot of history to Thanksgiving and what that means for the US and its colonization. I think there's a more genuine spirit of happiness around Thanksgiving than there is with Christmas. A lot of times I feel like it can be forced or there's a lot of stress. In particular, growing up there, Christmas was a stressful time for me and my family. So I don't always have the like happiest memories around Christmas, but I started doing new Christmas traditions on my own. The last few years, I've gone to New Orleans to spend it with some friends and their family. But I've also done like solo trips for Christmas for myself. I also always gift myself a new set of sheets and a bottle of scotch for Christmas.
I like that.
So those, I have like my own traditions. I think it is a happy time for a lot of people, and I'm not like bah humbug about it. I'm not Mr. Grinch, but it's not necessarily like my favorite holiday or my favorite time of year. So
right. For you, Thanksgiving it means more than Christmas.
I enjoy it more. I don't know that it means more, but I enjoy it more, particularly because I like to eat, and there's always good food around Thanksgiving. And for me, it was a happier time with my family than Christmas was, and so I think that's kind of my attachment to it. Yeah, but I just think in general, the winter holidays can be really hard on a lot of people, whether you have a good relationship with your family or not. It just tends to be very stressful. And I don't like to be stressed. So
no, it's true, actually. Yesterday, when I was coming back, like flying back, and we were in the airport, and you could see already some Christmas decoration, and I start feeling this. Oh my goodness! I need to start thinking about that. It makes sense because somehow start put pressure on you, like what I'm gonna buy, what I'm gonna organize, who I'm gonna be with. So there's always things that it comes along during this period of the year. It's beautiful, I love it, but at the same time as well, it comes a lot of pressure as well with it. Absolutely. Yeah. Ready for another one?
Yep.
Let's do it. Okay, Jared, next question is, what would be the title of your memoir?
I don't have any clever like saying.
It doesn't need to be. What's like?
I would have to say something with like full of sass. I'm a very like sassy and sarcastic person, and so somewhere that has to be somewhere in the title. Either it's a subtitle or something. But I hope it's reflective of, you know, a lot of the work and passion that I put into not only my job, but you know, my relationships with friends and other people and my adventures that I've gone on and want to continue to do. So I hope that's reflected in the title somehow.
Let me say that people, you go on to another place and there is someone right now reading your memoir. What would you like the person to take out of this, the biggest message of your memoir? The person goes like, that was interesting, that I will keep forever for my life, a lesson or something. What that would be?
Wow, that's a lot of pressure.
I mean, anything, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Like to leave there, that people could, you know, just read it and go like, okay, that was something interesting to read or to take with them.
I think maybe it's two things. One, being flexible. It's something that I'm struggling with right now, and learning how to be more flexible about really everything, whether it's, I had said that one negative word to describe me was demanding, and in response to that, I'm trying to be more flexible about my life, and not be so rigid or routine oriented, in such a way that like makes me feel bad about myself. And so I think that's one thing, is just being flexible, being allowing yourself to change. And we're all growing and changing every day, but allow that to come naturally. Don't be afraid of it.
Mhm.
And then the other, I think, take note of like the small moments throughout the day. Like there are times I could have a really stressful day. It could be a busy day. It could be really tired, angry, whatever it is. And there are these moments when I just like slow down a little bit and just focus on something. Could be looking out my window and the light is hitting the rooftop across the street in an interesting way, or it could just be how the light's coming through the trees. Like all of these small moments that just kind of bring happiness, I think are great to just take in and not just walk by. So those would be my two themes, I guess.
Amazing. Next one, let's do it. Next question for you is, if you could live anywhere in the world, where that would be and why?
Everywhere. I feel like I want to live everywhere at some point in my life. If I could choose one place.
Could you live abroad, like in a country where English is not the first language?
I would love to. I'm currently learning Spanish. I have a couple friends who are native Spanish speakers, and so it's important for me to learn their language, because there are times when we will go out to dinner or something, and it'll be a group of folks who all know how to speak Spanish, and then they'll look at me and be like, "Oh, we have to switch to English because of Jared." I'm like, "Well, no, all of you are native Spanish speakers. It's my job to be able to engage with you in your language, or your native language." So I would love to live abroad. I feel like, I don't know, I imagine it like when I'm retiring, I'd be living abroad, although I'd be really happy to live and work abroad as well. But like living like in the countryside somewhere, even though I love a city. But it could be anywhere in Latin America. It could be truly anywhere, Europe. Not so sure about Asia. That's a lot of people, and I don't do well with crowds. Although I know there are some country aspects of Asian countries that's nothing there. But I don't know, when I envision myself I went on a trip recently, well, a few years ago, to Lyon, in France, and I really enjoyed that city and that kind of feel. So maybe it's not Lyon, but it's something that feels very much like that. Again, very walkable, great views, things to do, etc. So
I think those places like Lyon that you visited, so when you go to those places, just picture yourself in this way of living. It's such a different way, isn't it? Like, and sometimes you forget because we live in a way that we are, working, doing our stuff, going party or meeting friends. But when you go to those places that you see a different way of living, you go like, my goodness, I could easily adjust myself to this lifestyle, isn't it? Sometimes we go to those places and we have this vibe of living there. That's usual.
I feel like every trip I've gone on with friends, etc., we're always like, oh, we could move here, we could do this. Yeah. And I think part of it is just being able to learn and grow and see the world differently, and that's what's exciting to me. So really anywhere, but
yeah,
a very different culture I think would be good, something to challenge me, something I can grow from. So.
And I think as well, when you are open and approachable as well, that's why you have these feelings, because you can adjust yourself. You can be open to, a new opportunity or a new way of a lifestyle of living. You know what I mean? So yeah. Let's see like in 10 years time, or when you retire, let's see where you're going to be. I'm excited now.
Me too.
Next question. Jared, as I could see, how exciting is your job? So walk me through a day of a busy day of your schedule. How things works.
Well, right now my job isn't too busy. It's my third week, so I'm getting ramped up on things. So some of the things that I'm doing right now, I'm reviewing grant applications for some other folks in my office. I sit in meetings with developers. That'll be a lot of what my job will be in the future, is kind of attending these meetings where a developer is proposing a new project in the city of Boston, whether it's housing or it's lab space or it's some commercial property. I'm reviewing all these different elements, and then I'm taking into account what is happening in that area, what is going on in that neighborhood, and what is this building going to do, or how is it going to impact the arts and culture ecosystem in Boston. And then based on that information that I'm gathering, making recommendations to the developer and kind of advocating for, either the preservation of current spaces or the inclusion of new ones. And that involves writing a report or, drafting a comment letter to this proponent, this developer. But a lot of my job is also building relationships with other people in City Hall, whether they're project managers, whether they're urban planners, transportation planners, policy advisors. These relationships are really important in order to get the policies that my office wants to create and move forward and advocate for through the door. And so that's a lot of it too. But right now, my day-to-day is just absorbing information. It's reading what I can, learning how different cultural districts came to be, what they signify. A lot of it is, understanding what the space needs are for different artists. So if you're a sculptor, you need something different than a painter. If you're a woodworker, you're going to need something different than a singer or a musician. And so it's really learning what these spaces need to look like, and so that I can better help developers when it comes time and say, okay, this is what it should look like. This is how big it is. Thick the walls need to be, all these kind of small details that not everybody gets to think about.
And the time that you've been living in Boston so far, do you feel like Boston, it's a city that there's always something to do, culture-wise, or there's always Monday to Monday, or there are some days that more quieter than the others?
I feel like there's always something to do. I think if anything, it's more seasonal. We have a lot of tourism in the summer. And in the winter, I think, having lived in Minnesota for a while, where it's cold for 6-7 months out of the year, there's a culture around being outside in Minneapolis, even during the winter, and just kind of adjusting your lifestyle to what the weather is. Whereas in Boston, I think we're starting to find that culture, but right now, to me, and one of my, challenges to Boston, which I hope we can meet, is that we do kind of close ourselves off in Boston during the winter months. As soon as it starts to get cold, we're not doing as much of, visiting each other, going out to bars, restaurants, whatever it may be. There's not a lot of activity happening in our parks or anything. That's not to say nobody is doing anything, but it just seems to be a lot more mellow, a lot more quiet. But I think from a day-to-day perspective, Boston's a very active city. There's always something that you can find to do in the city.
Just for curiosity, Minneapolis is bigger than Boston, or they are the same, around the same size, or like me?
I think it's a good question. I think from a population perspective, Minneapolis is bigger. But the population density in Boston is much higher. And from a metropolitan standpoint, Boston is bigger. So it's a little different. Growing up in Ohio, I also went to school in Columbus for undergrad. Columbus, Ohio actually has a larger population than Boston, but the population density here in Boston and the Boston metro is much, much higher. So it feels like a bigger city.
I see. All right. Next question is, what do you think people need to know about each other before they get married?
For me, I think I'm not married, not dating anybody, but important things for me to know would be, what is the other person like on their best day? What are they like on their worst day? How do they communicate? Do they communicate from a standpoint of emotion? Do they communicate from logic and reason? Is it a mixture? But also, I think beyond that, it's, do their values align? Do we care about the same kind of big picture things? Someone could be really into gaming and reading, and I want to be out and go to the club. It's not a thing that I like to do, but as an example, that is fine. But when it comes down to our core values and what we care deeply about, do those align with each other? And I think that's incredibly important. And then above all, it's communication. There are going to be hard days in any relationship, whether it's romantic or platonic or anything. It's how do you work through that, and can you work together? And then I also just think you should probably live together for a little bit, just to figure out.
Totally agree. I totally agree. I think that's the main key for me, to spend some time together before getting this step, because you just see little habits living together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good and bad ones. You know what I mean? Those things you don't see, like meet each other or sleeping like a week together or traveling. You don't see. You just see it. Spend some time living together. Saying that, in your opinion, do you think the gay scene, the dating scene in the LGBT community, dating, it's easy in Boston? People kind of, or it's like a big city where it's find quite hard or difficult dating in the gay scene?
I haven't been like actively dating for a while now, so I think the queer community here, the LGBTQ community here, is small, like most cities, I think. Not all, but it seems very small. And so you go out to the same few bars, or you see each other around, you're in the same sports leagues, whatever it is. And so in that aspect, it can be hard, because I feel like part of the reason I didn't enjoy growing up in rural Ohio is that everybody knew my business. And so oftentimes in the LGBTQ community, everybody knows who you are already. They've already made an assumption about you.
I see.
But I would say, finding people to date or going on dates, I don't think is necessarily difficult. But I think there is a stigma around dating in the LGBTQ community, regardless of what city you're in. I think there's a perception of folks just not wanting to settle down, or there's all these options. We didn't have time when we were adolescents to date and really explore what that meant. And so now we're in our late 20s and early 30s doing that. And so I think it can be difficult and it can be a struggle, but I also think if you're really intentional about it, you can find somebody to date long term.
Amazing. Very good. 3 questions left for you. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, Jared, next question is, do you know anyone who is living their life to the fullest?
I would have to say one of my best friends, Natalia. She is truly living her life to her fullest. She recently got engaged. She and her fiance have embarked on this, they're now snowbirds, we call. So in the summer, they'll live in Boston, and in the winters, they'll live in Phoenix. Wow. And I think her life has just dramatically changed in the last year and a half. But she's always been the type of person, she has like a go attitude. She's always doing something. She's always filling her calendar either with friends or events or work. And she's really found what works for her and what fulfills her. And it's really exciting to see how happy she is. Wow. In life. Not to say that there aren't any like some struggles or difficulties along the way, but the way she will bring in people in her life to talk about them, work through them, and really move forward, I think is just really inspiring. So she always has been an inspiration to me. And I truly think she is living her life to the fullest right now.
How did your path cross?
We met at City Hall. I was new to City Hall. She had been working there for a few years, I believe. And she started the Latinx Employee Resource Group at City Hall. She probably remembers how we met initially, but we met through work. And then I had sat down to have a conversation with her about some of the work that I was working on that overlapped with what she was doing or had done in the past. And then from there, other friends of mine invited me to join some of the Latinx Employee Resource Group events or meetings. And that's how we connected. And from then on, we've been like, we have always hung out or been really close. It was really close, really fast, to the point sometimes she'll be like, hey, can you come with me to Costco? Or can you come run errands with me? And it turns into a whole weekend of us spending together doing absolutely nothing in particular, but doing everything together. But we met through work.
She's from Boston.
She actually is from Colombia, and then grew up most of her life in Phoenix, and then moved to Boston, I think around like 2013, maybe 2014, not quite sure.
I see.
But, yeah.
Cool. 2 questions left. Let's do it. Right, before the next question, as you are learning Spanish, tell me what's your favorite Spanish word so far?
My favorite Spanish word so far? I would say, ojalá. I really like just the way it sounds, ojalá. So hopefully, it's a very nice word. And then any of the like multi-syllabic words, because it takes me forever to learn. I'm trying to like reshape my mouth and how everything works to get them to sound right. And so it's a fun challenge. And it's been great to learn the language. I sound like an overgrown toddler when I try to speak, but I still attempt, especially with my friends, because they're more understanding. So.
And why Spanish?
I've always wanted to learn another language at some point. I took Spanish in high school, but the way languages are taught in US high schools is not the best way to learn. It's more memorization than it is less intentionality and an immersion into the language or the culture. I ended up really deciding on Spanish because of how many friends I have in Boston who speak Spanish. And I felt like it was important to me to be able to connect with them in their native language. All of them are bilingual, all speak English fluently as well, but I never really appreciated how exhausting it can be to speak in a secondary language until I started learning Spanish. And now I have a greater appreciation for everything that my friends do and the expansiveness of their like vocabulary in English, because it is such a struggle. I never would want to learn English as a second language. I think it's a very difficult language if you didn't grow up speaking it. But Spanish really came from just wanting to connect with my friends and understand them in a closer and deeper way, and be able to connect with them. I also live in a neighborhood that is like 58% Latino.
Wow.
And so going out to restaurants, going to the laundromat, to the bodegas, whatever it is, I think it's just another way that I can connect with people in my neighborhood and really make sure that they feel welcomed to Boston as well.
Amazing. Okay, next question is, what is the most romantic thing someone has ever done for you?
The most romantic thing? So an ex of mine picked up on the smallest details of what I was talking about in a conversation, and then when it came time for like Christmas or my birthday and giving gifts, it's like these very these are things that I just like said offhand, whether it be, oh, I like art, or this is my favorite artist, or something that I like spent a lot of time talking about, but then when it came time for like receiving that gift, it showed up, and it just made me, I was like, oh wow, you've really listened to me. You kind of picked up on all the small details, not just the big things. But also someone surprised me with like a weekend trip. And like they did all the planning. I tend to be the planner. I just tend to like map out what we want to do, whatever it is. But they took that initiative, and it felt nice to be cared for in that way. So I think those are like two examples of some of the most romantic things that happened.
Sweet, very sweet. Ready for the last one?
Yes.
Let's do it. Last question, Jared. But before the last question, I know those 2 years that we went through, like very challenging ones regarding the COVID crisis. Personally for you, what's the biggest positive impacts that brought to your personal life, and also the most negative one, if you can share?
Mm-hmm. Positive impact, really, well, I guess there's two there. One is my connection with the outdoors, being in nature. Because we couldn't congregate, we couldn't be in indoor spaces, or I didn't necessarily feel comfortable doing that, I started to do more hikes. I would not consider myself like a big hiker. I actually call myself a baby hiker. So like small 4 or 5 mile hikes, not like big elevation change, but getting outside and going for a walk and just kind of breathing in the fresh air was a great way for me to reset for the day, and to kind of just reconnect with myself, and let the worries of COVID, of the pandemic, of being cooped up in the house kind of melt away. The other is, without the pandemic, I wouldn't have gotten as close to one of my neighbors who now lives in New Orleans, and he's the one who I've gone down for Christmas with. Him
Wow.
and his best friend, I spent Christmas with both of them, and their family. And without the pandemic, it just happened that he moved in like right before the pandemic started, down the street from me, and then the pandemic hit. And so we kind of formed a really good bond. I'd go over to his place sometimes to work, or just to hang out on like a Friday night, watch TV, whatever it was. And our friendship really grew because of that. And I'm very thankful for having Nick in my life. He's been very supportive in me finding new jobs. Just, my struggles with dating now that I'm not dating, but before I was dating, etc. He was there, and he's been a solid foundation for me. So I'm very appreciative of that. In terms of negative, I think it was just really hard mentally. It really took a toll on me. I think a lot happened in the last 2 years, not even just the pandemic. George Floyd's murder, we had, an election, an insurrection. There's just so many things that happened, and it felt like an overwhelming amount of things were happening all at once or in rapid succession. And that's a lot to take on as one person, and not being able to kind of go out in spaces and talk to people and disconnect in that way. You're cooped up in your house, working on your laptop, and then watching TV or reading. You just have no one to really talk through that with. And so it was very hard mentally. I did have a roommate at the time, and so we were able to talk about some of those things, but we both were just exhausted at a certain point. We're like, we can't do this anymore. We need to stop. And so it was very difficult mentally.
Were you in Minneapolis when the COVID crisis hit?
No, I was here in Boston. So yeah, I'd been in Boston for 3 years before it hit. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Last question for you is, what keeps you up at night?
Right now, my cat. I recently got a cat,
Oh.
and so we're getting adjusted to each other. And like this morning, he was very energetic at like 5 o'clock in the morning, playing with something. He was
You
being
also like, get ready, we need the magic box today, get ready, get ready.
yeah, exactly. He was just trying to get me ready. But we're getting used to each other. And then I think outside of my cat who came here 2 weeks ago, not a lot anymore, actually. I think I'm in a lot of a healthier mental space that I'm able to let go of things and relax and let my mind kind of relax and drift off into blissful sleep, which is amazing. But prior to maybe a few months ago, it was everything. I could have, I worry a lot, I think a lot, I'm very hard on myself. And so I would replay the day and say, oh, what if I did this thing different? And then like tomorrow, I'm like, here's what's on my agenda. Oh no, if I don't get this done. And it was just like running thoughts would keep me up and I just wasn't sleeping well. But now I let the day be the day and I need my rest in order to perform for the next day. And so that's what I try to do.
Great, Jared, great. I think one of the biggest success in life is when you are able to sleep like peaceful. Do you know what I mean? Because as you know, nowadays there's so much going on in our lives and the world as well, that it can, affect us somehow, even though if we don't want or we are run away of it, but it can give a big effect in your life. And anyway, I think, good for you that you're in this state of mind. Very good.
Yeah.
Right, let's play now the word association game, okay? I'm going to give away some words. Just tell one word that comes to your mind. Big thinking.
Okay. So, I hope you are enjoying the interview. Before we do the word association game, don't forget to give a like, don't forget to share this video, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Just click on the button right there. Thank you so much and enjoy the word association game.
Okay. Let's start with money.
Wealth.
Love.
Friendship.
How about family?
Hard.
Sex.
Fun.
Life.
Journey.
One word for politics.
A lot.
One word for religion.
Difficult.
Fear.
Common.
Friendship.
Happiness.
Desire.
Love.
Regret.
Damaging.
One word for success.
Happiness.
Wish.
Longing.
And one word for happiness.
Life.
Beautiful. Ohio, one word.
Buckeyes.
Buckeyes.
Buckeyes. So there's a Buckeye tree, and the Ohio State University's mascot, which is where I went for undergrad, is Buckeyes. This week is the biggest rivalry in Ohio State sports, which is against University of Michigan. And so as a former Buckeye myself, like this week is very much Ohio. Everybody in Ohio, or most people in Ohio, are rooting for the Buckeyes this week. So
amazing. I love that. One word for Minneapolis.
River, adventure. Yeah.
How about Boston? One word.
Home.
And the last one now, USA. One word.
Expansive.
Interesting. Right, let's pretend I'm going to meet your best friends for a coffee, and I'm going to ask your best friend, what is the most beautiful thing about Jared, and what's something that he still needs to work on, to improve on? What's your best friend to say?
Um, I think they would say the the passion that I have for the things and the people that are in my life. I care a lot. I want what's best for everyone in my life. And ensuring that, you know, they can succeed, they can be fulfilled, they're living their lives to the fullest, and that they're happy. And so I do care a lot about my friends, and really even people who aren't my friends. I could have just met you and you tell me you're sick and I'm say, okay, where do I need to bring the soup? And I think that's just incredibly important and needed in today's society. I think something that they would say that I could work on. Probably relaxing. I can be a very intense person. I can be very stubborn. And so I think being able to relax, being able to let go, being able to be more free, and free flowing, I think is something that they would highlight. And probably not caring so much about things. So
I see. Yeah, I think our friends sometimes they can see those points better than ourselves. They are from outside, and sometimes they can see the picture there that sometimes we are lost and we don't see it clearly. Let's say this way.
Yeah.
Let's play now, Jared and the Magic Box, and you can ask me a question. But before that, let's play the music one more time. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, Jared from Boston, you can ask me a question now.
Okay. What has been your favorite day, like the perfect day that you've had so far?
Good question. My goodness, it's a good question. At the same time, very hard as well, because I'm so fortunate and lucky that I could tell you so many days. But I will. The first one that came to my mind, and as I said to you, that this weekend past now, I was in Portugal, spending my birthday with great friends, and I'll tell you why. I'll put this weekend, one of the the latest one, and I'll tell you why. I arrived in Europe, Jared, 20 years ago, 2002, yeah, and arrived in Porto, the second biggest city in Portugal. And I was 19 years old, and I remember, my goodness, arriving there. I didn't know anyone, and and I'm so grateful that life brought me there and arrived in Europe, in that beautiful city. So this weekend's been really special because when I organized my birthday, I was asking away great friends like around Europe, and actually a friend of Brazil came along as well just for my birthday. Imagine how beautiful. And so when I started organizing my birthday last year, and I started inviting people, and they were like, my goodness, of course, I'll go to your birthday. But when I arrived there and seeing everyone together, like most of them, they didn't know each other. Like they knew it, but they never met, or they were kind of meeting for the first time as well. And I remember through the weekend seeing those friends just interact with each other. Sometimes I was looking at them and they were literally like almost passing out, like laughing between them for some reason. So that for me, it warmed my heart so much that I lost my voice. As you can see, I'm losing my voice because it was a very, very long weekend. But at the same time, I think it's been memorable because, those people from different countries meeting each other, like spending time together, sharing experiences, sharing moments, memories. You have no idea. For me, I was literally, at one point I was lost. Like they were talking to me. I was just like, okay, let's do whatever, because I was literally just enjoying. When you organize something, you get worried. You don't relax completely because you need to accommodate people's needs. You need to make sure that everyone is, it's having a good time. But at one point, I just literally forgot about that because they were literally connected. So I would say that this weekend, it's been very special, Jared, because it was a remarkable moment. That's all of them. They were like, oh my God, I can't wait for us to do that again. And getting everyone together. So for me, this weekend has been very special because I was in a place where I arrived 20 years ago that, I have so many great memories there. And spending that time with like great friends, it couldn't be better. I couldn't be in a better place, And and on Sunday nights, some of them, they're already, moving away, going back to their countries. And I was like, my goodness, what's happening now? I felt like empty, you know what I mean? And I'm in London now, back in London. I just felt, oh my God, it was the best weekend I ever had. And but I could tell you like 100 of other beautiful moments in my life. I could be here another hour with you. But I would point that this weekend now, because it was very special. I never seen so many nationalities in one table together. I never seen so many people. And it was beautiful to see there, sharing the moment, like connecting with each other. And I felt like I was doing the magic box. At one point I was like, welcome to the magic box, because so many people connecting with each other, because it was so beautiful to see. So yes, I would say this weekend, it is one of the most beautiful and remarkable days in my life, because put so many people together from different countries. It's just a beautiful moment for me. It was a gift for me. That was the biggest gift I ever had, is to see all of those great friends together, spend this special occasion with me, for sure.
I love that. That sounds exciting.
Yeah,
and happy birthday.
Thank you so much. And I'm here drinking tea, recovering my voice. And but yes, it was a great time. Jared, did you have a good time? Did you enjoy the interview?
I did. I loved it. It was so great.
Thank you so much. I was thinking to myself yesterday, again, how lucky I am. People like you waking up early, very early just for the interview. It's amazing. It warms my heart as well, because people, they're literally, accommodating themselves and find a way to do the interview because of, the difference of time as well. I remember once I did someone in Australia. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning for him. It was like 9 p.m. for me. And I was like, my goodness, how beautiful is to see those people, just like they want, be part of the show and find a time for it. And nowadays we are so busy with our time. And when someone take their time for us, it's a great gift. You know what I mean? It's beautiful. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Before you go, if you can share a positive message, something that you live by.
I don't know. I live from a point of view of transparency and radical honesty. And I think, I tend to be a very direct person, but I also am very willing to share, what I think and feel. And I think that's one great way to like let people into your life, not be so closed off. And so, I think be true to yourself, be honest with yourself, but also be true and honest with others. And that's kind of how I live my life and do my work. So
amazing. Very good. Thanks so much. And I'll see you in Boston sometime soon. My godson, he lives in, my best friend, he lives in Montreal. And next time I'll try to sneak in a trip to Boston, okay?
Absolutely. You should. Let me know when you come.
Absolutely. Take care, okay? And keep in touch. Enjoy your day, okay?
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So, did you like the show? Don't forget to give a like, to share it, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to be part of the show as well, first, subscribe to our channel, and after that, just go to our website, www.williamandthemagicbox.com, and send us a request saying why would you like to be part of the show. And I see you there. Bye-bye. See you next time.